Are you ready? Let's go!
Don't you sometimes just want to talk about everything? You know, there's days when you can just talk about anything. Need to sit back and chat about nothing at all? Nothing But Julie, coming at you with fun and creative topics and interviews.
Did you hear Julie's podcast? She's got the greatest topics.
Come join the chat about everything, anything, and nothing. So unwind and tune in to Nothing But Julie. Great topics and cool interviews with some pretty awesome people. And now, without further delay, here's Nothing But Julie.
Well, hello everyone. This is your host, Julie Schrager of the Nothing But Julie podcast. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining me. And today I celebrate my 50th episode. And by that, I mean my 50th individual episode. I've been doing this for a short while. It is not my 50th episode altogether. I've also done my narration of the short stories. I've done a little crime and mystery, separate segments. And I've also done the Thursday Thoughts with Rhonda Marie and separate interviews. It's probably well over 100 altogether. But this is the 50th episode of me doing the podcast on my own individually. So, celebration! And also, it is my final episode of the year 2021. Not that I am happy about that, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, all right, maybe 2022 will be a little bit better. And so it's with that I am going to be doing my final podcast on the year in review 2021. So let's get started. Let's get started. This was definitely another year for the books. That just, it's like a year on the brink of change. I feel like we're still in a shitstorm. And it's not just about, the pandemic. It's a shitstorm of everything. So I'm going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly. I am not going to stay on any one particular area. I might talk about it for a minute, but that's it. So let's just get started. Let's get into the news first. I mean, there were a lot of remarkable stories that unfolded this year, from political unrest to floods and forest fires and COVID resurging by the Delta variant, now the Omicron, and the growing climate crisis. So let's start with the beginning of 2021 with the news, okay? Where you had the Capitol riots. Capitol was under attack. That was on the 6th of January to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris coming into office, both as president and vice president, and that was on the 20th of January. And there also were the travelers that were returning to the UK from the, quote, the red list. If you might remember that. Wow, I look back at this and I'm just like, my God. Medical staff, the frontline workers, the nurses, the doctors, everyone involved, the staff with regard to COVID. A huge fire that threatened Lake Tahoe. There are some incredible pictures of this. And these fires, I mean, it's like the world, it's almost like we're watching the beginning of the end of the world. And in as much as that's very dramatic, Julie, and that's very, wow, depressing, it's also very scary. I mean, all these things that are happening to the world and a pandemic, it's like Mother Nature and the gods are saying, this is what everyone's doing. This is your fault. we gave you this beautiful world and look what you've done with it. And now we're going to show you what you've done. Oh, it's just, anyway, moving on. And then, of course, lockdown. We don't, the lockdown that happened in 2020 where the rules became a little more relaxed. You might remember back in April where India was struggling to contain the huge wave of COVID. And that, I believe, and don't quote me, is where Delta started, that eventually came to us, to the horrible events that happened in Afghans and displaced Afghans that were fleeing to Kabul. The images of babies from their parents being forced, well, not so much forced, but handing their babies to American soldiers. Take my baby, give him a good life. And then moving on to, in August, Hurricane Ida, how it bear down on Louisiana. You might remember that. Some of these are a little devastating to read, to remember, but it is what happened. And in September, the large migration surge crossing the Rio Grande. These might be some things that you didn't even hear of. And in October, the volcanic ash and new eruptions. I am looking at images, and it's just horrifying. To China celebrating its 100th anniversary of, it doesn't even say. Hold on. Okay, sorry. Where China celebrates the 100th anniversary of the Communist Party at a mass gala. I don't know if you even knew about that, but there was a performance there that was celebrating this anniversary of the founding of the Communist Party of China. And it was just this large celebration, which was really beautiful, to kind of watch. And so, okay, moving on, because I don't want to get stuck on any one thing too. Freeing Britney. As you guys might have heard, she was under conservatorship with her father, who was the primary caretaker, and she was finally freed from that. And then back in August, the Afghan refugees arrived at Dulles Airport. I remember seeing that. It was really something else. Really was to watch how the Taliban just took over within such a short period of time before American soldiers left, and these refugees arrived in Dulles in Virginia, and they continued to arrive in the United States after those twin suicide bombings at the gates of the airport in Kabul. Oh, just horrible. But the good thing is that at least some of these refugees were able to come to us, even though there's a lot of people who weren't happy about that. But I don't care. I was happy that these are still humans, Moving on. So this was, in July of 2021. There were many deaths in the Surfside condo here in Florida. Literally, maybe a half an hour from where I lived. It was just awful. And there was a huge memorial for the victims. They still are under investigation with what happened, which basically means they know. They're just not letting it out to the public. But this particular condo building, it just collapsed. And apparently there's about 80 people still missing from this, meaning that they're just buried. And maybe just, I'm not going to get into it, but I'm sure that you know where I'm going with that. And then moving on to Lake Powell being at a historic low level. Moving on, this is I would get around November, about the floating Earth. I don't know if you've heard of that, but this was in England. And there was an artist, well, there is an artist who created something called Floating Earth. And the pictures are amazing. And it hovers over this area, or was hovering over this area for about 10 days, which was a celebration of what they call water courses. And it's just an incredible photo. If you have a chance to look it up, it's Luke Jerram's New Floating Earth. And it was really incredible to see. But that's not like a major thing that happened. It was just, one of the things that happened. And that was actually a good thing. And then this one I really loved. This was, I think it was, the beginning of 2021, where Trump supporters held the Stop the Steal rally. I mean, it's just this whole thing was just out of control. I am so glad that man is out of office. I did not like him. I did not like anything about him. And it doesn't mean that I'm not a Republican. It doesn't mean I'm a Democrat. It just means I did not like him. He tore this whole entire world apart. And if any of you think otherwise, then that's why it happened. Because you just did not think that anything was really that bad. And it was. It was really, really bad. And we didn't need other people participating to what was going on. And he was awful. He was just awful. And again, this has nothing to do with a political view. This has to do with the man and the things that he had done, the things that he had said. I still can't believe that a man like that was elected, a man like that who, what he did to women, it's just despicable. And yet that this man ran our country into the ground for 4 years, and everyone is so full of hate today because of him. That's all I have to say. Moving on. But this whole The Steal rally was, pro-Trump supporters, a.k.a. protesters, and they gathered in front of the Capitol building. And this was, the storming of the Capitol. Like I had said at the beginning of the podcast, they all gathered and they protested the ratification of President-elect Joe Biden's Electoral College victory. And it just, it got out of hand, to say the very least. And there's something very despicable about people doing what they did. It was disgusting and shameful, and no ethics, no class, no respect. And yet people still think that there was nothing wrong with what happened. And if you don't think there was something wrong with that, then there's definitely something wrong with you. And then they had a Stop and Steal rally. What, did one or two people die? I think a police officer. I don't even want to talk about it anymore because it gets me sick to my stomach. Really, like literally sick. And thank God some of them are in jail. Thank God. I wish that there was more that could be done, worse that could be done. But what can you do? And this is not just us. This is all over the world. And then you have Joe Biden, who was sworn in as the 46th president of the United States. And what a ceremony that was. And there was a young poet laureate. Her name is Amanda Gorman. And she left a very impressive scar on people after performing this particular poem that was just absolutely incredible. I didn't even know she was going to be on there. I didn't even know who she was. But man, did she do some job. She was extraordinary. For a young woman like that to just get up in front of the nation to do something like that is still extraordinary. Okay, moving on to, I'm trying to see if there's better news. Really isn't a whole lot of good news, but there was the winter storm where there was a foot of snow. This was back in February, and there was something that was actually really, really cool if you didn't see it. And there were these starlings, which are, birds, And this was back in February, where they mermaided over Brighton Palace Pier as they came into roost in February. They usually murmurate over Brighton Place Pier as they come into roost, but this was like almost a swarm of them, and it looked almost like a UFO, and it was really, really cool. And there are some of these pictures that you can go online and look at, and wow, some of them are absolutely extraordinary, but seeing something like that is like almost, it's just Mother Nature at its best. Really incredible. Okay, so now moving on to the adverse effects of some of the vaccinations, to the debates that raged across the nation on, whether to reopen the schools, and if they do open the schools, should the children wear masks, and then the parents, and how they got all up in arms over my child can't breathe, that whole thing. And then this was, let's see, I think in March, where primary school children did return to school, but this was in Northern Ireland. They slowly start, but now with this virus, this variant, the Omicron, being so contagious, I wonder what might happen this year coming up, because it is not as deadly, but it is much more contagious. So it should be very interesting. I'm picking and choosing here, just as you might imagine. There's a lot to unpack, but it's not. I don't want to go through every single one. This was really something. The tents that were set up in De la Republique to highlight homelessness. This was in France, and you probably never even heard of this, but there were these, it was a protest, actually, that called for accommodations for homelessness. They had to highlight homelessness. And so they actually had these tents that were put up that showed, just what was going on in that country. And it was really sad to see, because it really highlighted just how bad the epidemic is there. I cannot forget the tornadoes that recently passed through. This was very recent, through the Midwest. I mean, just horrible, absolutely horrible, to there being a horrible drought in Kenya. And I mean, bad. The images are of giraffes that are dying, just laying there, just dead, because they can't hydrate themselves. It was an aerial view of the bodies of 6 giraffes that were lying on the outskirts of a particular place, a particular village in Kenya. And they were just weak from lack of food and water, and then they died after they got stuck in mud. They tried to drink from a nearly dried up reservoir, and they were moved to a particular location to prevent contamination of the reservoir water. But there's been a prolonged drought in this country's northeast, and it created shortages for food and water, and it actually pushed, livestock to the brink. And they've received less than a third of normal rainfall. But to see this, which I really don't want to even discuss, because this is not something I would ever look at. It's a serious thing that's happening there. So I am going to shut myself down from this particular part of 2021. And I am going to get into sports. I'm going to discuss 2021 in sports, because that will probably be a little bit better than, what I was just talking about. So of course, the Olympics. The Olympics that were held, I think, in July over the summer, that were not even close to the same as how they've been. Not even close. Hardly much of an audience. Simone Biles giving, really, I have a lot of respect for her, where she withdrew from a lot because of her mental health. I thought that was extraordinary. Really, really did. To the French Open, which was fantastic, and Italy versus England for soccer. I mean, really not like anything crazy for it, but I think that the Olympics were incredible. I did not watch all of them, all of the different highlights. I only, watched at night, but it was very different. It was very, very different than what you, I guess, would normally expect. Of course, we can't forget the World Series, the Atlanta Braves versus Houston. And who won? The Braves. The Braves was 7-0. Wow. 7-0. That's crazy. So, sports were alive and well, but the majority of it was about the Olympics. And these were in Tokyo. And you might remember that Elaine Thompson Herah, she's from Jamaica. She won the gold medal in the women's 100-meter final. And wow, she's incredible. Have you ever seen her? I mean, I cannot believe how fast she is. I can't even. Okay, Kentucky Derby. A lot of people at the Olympics were talking about how bad the beds were in the Olympic Village, that as soon as you lay down in it, you literally could fall off of it. Okay. Nothing too exciting there. All right. Then, of course, let's not forget the opening day of the Australian Open and Wimbledon and what's the one that's U.S. Open? The U.S. Open that's held in Flushing, Queens. All right. Entertainment. Let's dive into that. I like entertainment. I like entertainment a lot more than I think anything else. So let's talk about the Biebers. The Biebers. Nothing really wonderful except the fact that they were spotted in Paris and were all over the news. Then you have Lady Gaga, who recently came out with the House of Gucci, which was, I don't know, I didn't really watch it. I don't even know if I can watch it. Can I? I don't even know. I have to check and see. And then, of course, J-Lo and Ben Affleck getting back together. Whoop-de-frickin' who cares? Then you had, in September, you had the Met Gala, which was, I think that was one where Kim Kardashian went from top to bottom covered in black. What the hell was that? I mean, I don't get it. I think people only knew that it was Kim Kardashian because Kendall Jenner was standing next to her. Otherwise, who would have known that it was her? I don't know. I don't get it anyway. Moving on. It's so silly. I just can't. Watching some of the award ceremonies at home. Not me at home. I mean the people who were actually nominated and seeing how they accepted their awards at home with their families on Zoom. That was really weird. Cicely Tyson passed away. That was just recently. That was, yes. I don't know exactly when. I have to look at the date for that one. And then all these celebrity sightings that were in Venice, Italy. Who cares? I mean, I'm just reading this to you, but who really cares? I just, whatever. Some of this stuff, I don't know, I think it doesn't really matter, but the Duke and Duchess, they had another baby. And then you had the Grammy Awards that were in March. And the funeral of Prince Philip. Some of this stuff is sad. I don't even want to, talk about it. But I will say, I guess this is kind of considered entertainment. Not too sure that Joe Biden sworn in as the 46th president of the United States. I don't know. Is that entertainment? I mean, I guess it might be. I think the Met Gala is pretty cool. Have you ever seen that before? It is unbelievable with some of the outfits that these people wear or come up with. It's pretty cool. Let's talk about those who are no longer with us, which was... So you have Prince Philip, like I had just mentioned. That man was one good-looking man, I will tell you, and he aged very well. Colin Powell, who passed away. Let's see. He was unbelievable. Charlie Watts, the Rolling Stones. Marvin Hagler, who I think was a boxer. Rush Limbaugh. Mm-hmm. Wow, Hank Aaron, baseball player, well, previous baseball player. Excuse me. Mary Wilson, who passed away. Wow, it's just, I hate looking back at all this stuff. It's like, it's just all so sad. Christopher Plummer, you might remember him from The Sound of Music. Da, da, da. Why aren't they showing the names of these people? Well, Biz Markie, you got what I need, but they say he's just a friend. But they say he's just a friend. Oh, baby, you. Yeah, he sang that song. Larry King. He passed away. There's a lot more, but I just don't know if you would know all of these. Donald Rumsfeld, who was the defense secretary. That was pretty recent. Cicely Tyson, like I said before. Doesn't say when she passed away, though. But she was unbelievable. Unbelievable actress. The president of Argentina also passed away. This one makes me sad. Stanny from Sex and the City. Makes me so sad. His name is Willie Garson, and he passed away, I think it was October. I loved him. I thought that he portrayed Stanford so perfectly, and I think it was such a shock because nobody knew he was sick. He didn't tell anyone until it was too late. And he leaves behind one son. And no, he's not gay in real life. Was not gay in real life. And then, just got myself soaking wet. Eric Carle, you might remember him. He wrote Very Hungry Caterpillar, which is one of my favorite, children's books. Really one of my favorite ones. One of the Everly brothers passed away. Lots and lots of really amazing people we lost this year. Jackie Mason, passed away. Who just passed away very recently? Excuse me. Desmond Tutu, I think it was, who just passed away recently, very recently, this month. And for those of you who are huge Friends viewers, you might remember James Michael Tyler. He played Gunther, the bartender. Well, not the bartender, but he was a, what do you call it? A barista at the coffee shop that they all went to. And he passed away recently. That's such a shame. There's more people, but I just, Olympia Dukakis, who was wonderful. She was in, Steel Magnolias. She was in Moonstruck. She played the mom. Yeah. Ed Asner passed away. I mean, we're starting to lose some real amazing icons. It makes me feel old. Just seeing how some of these actors that I grew up with are slowly passing away, and it's like, wow, like, ugh, just, it's scary. It scares me. I don't love death. It's not like, but it still, kind of makes you think, like, oh my God, like, this person passed away. How'd that happen? It's like I literally feel like I was just watching their show, and yet they're... Anyway, moving on. Back in April, Brazil passed 400,000 deaths. This was because there was apparently a slow rollout of vaccines in Brazil. But I think things are definitely getting better there. And I just heard that yesterday in New York City, or New York, I should say, yesterday being December 27th, for the first time since COVID hit, and I mean the first variant of COVID hit, 50,000 deaths were reported. It's just like this never-ending siege of shit, I don't want to really talk about much more of this because it just gets more and more depressing. But there's a lot more, like the Hurricane Ida that made landfall in August, in Louisiana. Pardon me. Just there's a lot, and I wonder what 2022 is going to bring. I can only hope that 2022 is remarkable and wonderful, and we all learn from things that transpired. Instead of complaining, instead of going, oh, I know it's been awful, what is your takeaway from it? What can you do to look back on things and maybe find a way to make things better, do things differently? How are we going to turn things around? Certainly many of us are doing our part in helping with this pandemic. But what has it taught us? What have all of the things that have been going on in this world over the last few years taught us? I mean, it's not a bad example, but my son went to get some blood work, just annual blood work, and I had a feeling that the lab didn't receive the prescription from the doctor's office. And prior to him going, I'm still a mom. He's 25 years old. I kind of now have no other choice but to sit back and kind of watch Jake, my son, do his own thing. You know what I mean? I have no choice but to watch him and still evolve and learn and experience. I wanted so bad to call up the doctor's office and say, hey, just want to confirm that you sent over the, the blood work prescription to the lab. My son's going tomorrow. But I didn't. And I said to my son, hey, when is your blood work? And he says, tomorrow. I knew that. And I was like, okay, do you have everything you need? And he's like, yeah, I'm just going to go. And I'm like, well, what is it that you need? And he's like, oh, well, I know that they had to contact the lab, the doctor's office for, the blood work, to authorize it. And I said, okay, are you sure they did it? And he's like, I guess. And I said, because that would really suck if you get there and they don't have the script. And he blew me off, whatever. And this was my way of kind of saying, pick up the freaking phone and call the doctor's office, make sure they sent it over, or call the lab, make sure they have it. And he didn't. So what happens? 9:30 this morning. Mom, the lab doesn't have my prescription. Mom, the lab doesn't have my prescription. Let me say it one more time. Mom. Okay? Mom is what I'm trying to get across to you. And I'm like, Mom, what? Like, I already tried to get you to understand the things that you had to do. Like, don't mom me. And so I said, well, I guess you'll have to call the doctor's office. Well, long story short, no, they forgot to send it. And they gave, of course, some excuse. I love these doctor offices. I love these people who work there. Now, I don't want to hear, oh, come on, Julie, give them a break. They're overworked and underpaid and nah. Still do your job. Just do your job. Okay? I've been overworked and underpaid most of my life, and I still did my job. Sorry. Maybe it's because I'm being Mama Bear. But they didn't do what they were supposed to do, and Jake now has to pick up the phone. He's now late for work. They already knew that he was coming in late. But he was even later for work, and it took them forever to fax it over. Their excuses, well, we don't fax over prescriptions. Whatever, shut up. All right, what is the point of this rant? The point of this rant is that there was something that transpired that I would hope that my son would learn from. And then the next time something similar to this would happen, he would be more proactive. Just like I was saying about the world we live in, and that hopefully there is a takeaway from all this. Instead of us just moving on with our lives, I hope that we all are able to wrap ourselves in a cloak of the shit that's transpired over this last year and be able to view it in a way to where we're able to help prevent certain things from happening or just learn from it and know better. And that's what I said to my son. I said, so what's your takeaway from this? And he said, I guess next time I should call to confirm. And I said, yeah. He goes, but Mom, it was my first time doing this. It's like I didn't know. And I said, no, you didn't. And that's fine. That's why you're learning. You never stop learning. So when this happens, don't blow it off the next time. The next time, be proactive. You learn. And that's what I really hope transpires. I hope that we've all learned. Like for me, what have I learned? Well, I've learned that there's a lot of assholes in this world. A lot of assholes. I've learned that there are some people who were my friends or I was friendly with who I really liked a lot that I learned to really dislike. Yes, because of their beliefs. Yes, because they are... But here's the thing. Maybe they think the same thing about me, and that's quite all right. But I don't see how you can think something bad about a person who is just trying to survive in a shit world right now. These people who I'm talking about are those who are constantly trying to remind us of what incredible lives they have and how much fortune they have by displaying it on social media all of the time. I am so sick and tired of people who feel that they have to always throw things on social media just so we can know that they exist. Or these are the neediest people I have ever known. The neediest people. Why do you find it necessary to have to display everything that you do? And I'm not just saying that just to say it. I mean everything. If you go to a restaurant with some friends, take a bunch of pictures with the phony ass smiles, let everyone know that you're having a great time, display it on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is. If you go to get a haircut, make sure that you let everyone know that you went to this particular salon to get a haircut. You know, there's no humbleness anymore with some people. If you're doing something for the greater good, if you're doing something for kids, then why are you posting all of the stuff that you do on Facebook? That's not being humble. That's saying that you want people to know what a generous person you are. Neediness. People who require others to see the things that they do. Who gives a shit? My God, I have never been that person. I like to still have some privacy in my world. You don't need to know how many friends I have by me, posting stuff on Facebook. It's none of your business if I have one friend or if I have 20 friends. It's none of your business if I go out all the time or don't go out at all. I like to keep the things that I do with my friends to myself. I don't always have to post that I went out with my friends so you can see that I have friends. Do you think I care about you knowing how many friends I have? Do you think I care if you know how much money I have? Do you think I care if you know that I actually have a life and went skiing? I mean, come on. Yeah. I'll be honest, every now and then I'll put something on social media about me going here or going there or doing this or doing that. But not only is it few and far between, but I don't upload every single picture on my camera roll. So you can see all that I did that maybe you who can't afford it didn't do or can't do. It's a punch in the face. It's a disgusting way to live. I don't want to be your friend if you're going to constantly be displaying every single thing you do. And there are some people that really display everything. Everything. I mean, every day it's something. And then people who I love start to question things like, don't you have a job? Or where are you getting your money from? Or, oh, another lunch out with your friends. I love those people, just totally calling them out. And thanks so much for all of, the Christmas pictures, showing off all of the gifts not only you got, but making sure that you caption the pictures of the gifts that you got for your family. Because it's really important, again, to know just how much money you've spent on your family. People, this is not what's important in life. There's so much bad shit going on in this world. Don't you feel bad or awkward even in the least that you are displaying and showing off all of these things that other people can't even do because of the unemployment rates, even though they say that they're good and they're not, they're shit. Even though there are people who have lost jobs, people who don't have money, people who are in dire straits, and there you are just, throwing your shit on Facebook for all the world to see. I don't get it. These are very desperate people. very, very desperate people. And I don't know, maybe the year 2022 will be different for some of them. Maybe some people will really find that being humble is the best way to go. There have been a lot of things that have gone on in 2021 that have really pissed me off. There are some things in 2021 that have made me sad. I have not been very happy this year, not for any kind of mental health issues, just because of the world. I haven't been happy. I didn't expect in my early 50s to be living this life. My husband and I had plans and dreams that we were going to be starting once our son was old enough. And, excuse me, and around the age that, he was old enough to kind of be on his own, is when the pandemic hit. And we have found ourselves struggling with not being able to live out our dreams, and the money that we've saved, to be able to do some of these things, we've kind of had to hold off on a lot. Now, is that the end of the world for us? No. But it does come into question, what if next year we can't do it? What if, God forbid, something happens to one of us? I start thinking that now. I mean, more now than I ever had in the past. And, I think that this last year has been hard for me because I've come to the conclusion that my future might not be as bright as I once thought it would be. I couldn't wait until I was of a certain age to finally be able to do the things that I've been holding off on doing. And now that we have the ability to do so, we're stuck, and it's because of COVID. Motherfucker, COVID. So that's why I've not been very happy, just because of the state of the world and how bad things have. And now we're going slowly into a soft lockdown. Well, I shouldn't say we. I live in Florida, so, Florida pretty much doesn't do shit when it comes to caring about the people, the residents. I hope that 2021 is a little bit brighter. I think of like this particular variant as a godsend, and I'm going to tell you why. I will take a more contagious variant, less deadly variant, over one that is more deadly. So now the Omicron will take over the Delta. So more people are going to get it, but they won't die. They can get sick, very sick, but they won't die. So that maybe the next variant, and there will be one, will be maybe not as contagious and not as deadly. And then we can slowly start getting back to normal. I think that the normal is going to be where eventually this is just going to be around forever. And we all have to just kind of live with it in a particular way. It is what it is. But 2021, everyone couldn't wait to get rid of 2020. And turns out 2021 was pretty bad. It wasn't as bad as 2020, but it was pretty bad. And now at the end of 2021, we're finding a whole new variant coming into 2022. So let's just hope that things get better, not only with COVID, but just in the world. Poverty, climate change, overworked and underpaid people, people who don't want to work at all, hoping that we're able to get people more pay, better pay, so we can start getting this world back on track and getting, the shit tons of canisters, out of the docks in LA, and just just the whole thing. But most importantly, I hope that 2022 brings much good health to those people, much love, much peace, and maybe a little bit kinder and friendlier people. Let's not forget to be kind. It's not that hard, but for some of you it seems to be hard. Let's try and just take everything with a grain of salt, because it really is a domino effect. It's like paying it forward. If you're kind to someone, that person isn't going to be like, screw you. They're going to be very happy and very appreciative, and might actually set in motion them being in a better mood, and then them paying it forward, and then that person paying it forward, and it becomes a domino effect throughout the world. It seems to be so much easier lately to be angry and judgmental towards people than to be nice and kind. So let's try and shift that dynamic and become kinder to one another. Everybody, let's do it. We can do it. You can do it. All night long. What is that from? That is from an Adam Sandler movie. Rob Schneider said that. What is that from? It's going to make me crazy. All right, anyway. Listen. I do wish you all a very happy 2022. Let's all start this off with a bang. Let's not make resolutions we know we're never going to keep. Let's just all try and stay focused on being kind and being happy. And Happy New Year to you all. And thank you for listening, subscribing, for DMing me, and I can't wait for my 51st episode in 2022.